There you just heard Dr. Garth Warren, a forensic pathologist in Idaho, describe the cause of death to J.J. Vallow and Tylee Ryan. Welcome back to Law and Crime, everyone. I'm Michelle Yu. If you're just joining us, we're discussing the trial of doomsday cult mom Lori Vallow Daybell, who is charged with first-degree murder for the deaths of her children Tylee and J.J., as well as her husband Chad's first wife, Tammy Daybell. I'd like to discuss now with my guests who are here with me this hour. I'm joined alongside criminal defense attorney Rachel Kugel and trial attorney Janina Tammy. And Rachel, I'm going to start with you here. What went through your mind as Dr. Warren said J.J. Vallow died by asphyxiation and Tylee by homicide by unspecified means?
Thank you so much for having me. So, I mean, this case is both riveting and disturbing and so upsetting. I can't imagine what it's like for jurors sitting there, you know, nice, normal, regular people who don't have the kind of contact with the criminal justice system and all sort of the seedy underbelly that the rest of us kind of have to deal with sometimes, to be hearing this about children. I mean, this is really, really, really difficult testimony to hear. And I think it also points out, you know, there are some other cases going on right now that Law and Crime are following that really center around the mental state of the defendant, right? And what's interesting here is this one doesn't. And yet it's the one with which it would make the most sense. Whenever you've got a mother charged with doing something like this to children, it's so hard to make sense of that those are the kind of cases where, you know, insanity defenses, and I know the state that this case is in doesn't quite have that type of thing, but that's where those kinds of defenses can work, because you can't wrap your brain around how, you know, a mother could do something like this. It's just so shocking.
Yeah, and Rachel, as graphic as that testimony is, overall, is the prosecution doing a good job, you think, tying Lori to the crime of murder itself?
Well, that's what's, you know, the defense is sort of riding on here, right? It's clearly a horrible case in terms of what happened to these kids. And I think it's clear that, you know, this defendant is not a likable person, because we know that at the very least she knew what was up here, right? Because she lied about, you know, where the kids were, et cetera. So this, from the start, you know, is a problematic defendant. And I think what the defense is trying to focus on is that, yeah, but if you actually take this case apart, so take away the totality of the circumstances and how sort of ugly it all is, if you take it apart, the prosecution still has the burden of proving beyond a reasonable doubt who actually did these things, what actually factually happened. And I think that is a difficult thing here for the prosecution to prove, in part because these defendants, both Lori and her husband, have both kind of stayed so tight-lipped with each other, right? We haven't had one kind of roll over on the other. And if we had, I think it would be a lot better case for the prosecutor, right? Because you'd have, you know, one person saying, well, here's what the other person did, and here's my role in it. We don't really know, you know, whose role is what here. And I think that's what the defense is going to kind of bank on.